This is Neil Smith, and you are listening to Fulham Focus Podcast.
Fulham.
Hello, welcome to the Fulham Focus podcast. My name's Matt Boisclair, and Fulham threw 2 points away at the Cottage on Saturday lunchtime when, having taken the lead through a fantastic Anthony knockout goal, Marcus Bettinelli flapped at a corner that he should have easily claimed. We snatched a draw from the jaws of victory. Should Bettinelli be dropped? We'll discuss that and all the fallout from the game, plus we have a quiz. But first, thanks to Neil Smith for opening the show. Neil made 90 appearances during the late 90s and was one of the first signings of the Al Fayed era. He played a key role in our first 101 points promotion under Kevin Keegan, which helped us on our way to the Premier League. Check out Daddy's Q&A with Neil on our website, fulhamfocus.com, where the former midfielder looks back at his career in South West 6 and explains his pride at being able to say he played for the same club as his childhood heroes such as George Best, Bobby Moore and Alan Mullery. Neil Smith, we salute you. A winning team should never be changed, and that is why joining me this week, once again, is a man for whom Fulham's greatest success always happens when he's as far away from the ground as possible. That's why we're starting a crown fund to get Morgan back to Australia. Hashtag send him back. It's Morgan Calton. Hello, mate.
Hello, mate. Appreciate that. Thanks.
Good to speak to you again. Just to say that any donations to the Send Him Back campaign should be sent in for the attention of Matt Boisclair and should be exclusively in cash only. Okay? Secondly, joining me is Moncton FC's answer to Fabry. Moncton have lost every game they've played this season, but they've no other keeper, so they're stuck with this guy until they can find a shit Spanish replacement. It's Statto, Matata.
Hello, you all right?
How'd you get on today?
It was a 3-2 loss. We're still searching for that first win, but you know, it's coming. It's coming. We could do a whole different podcast about Moncton, but you know, let's focus on Fulham for now.
and we get even less listeners. Good stuff. All right, let's get into the West Brom review then. So the surprise in the starting lineup was Bobby Reid in a midfield three alongside Harrison Reid and Tom Cairney. We thought Steph Joe would start. How do you think this midfield worked out, Statto?
I think at the beginning it worked quite well. When I first saw the lineup, I did have some reservations about it. I wasn't sure having both Bobby Reid and Cairney in a midfield. You know, it looked a bit unbalanced for my liking. But, you know, particularly in the first half, Harrison Reid, he held his own. He did all the defensive work and he kind of connected the midfield to the attack to defence quite well. And obviously in the second half, as players were tiring and as the game went on, the gaps did start to show, and I think changes should have come sooner.
Do you think, though, that a midfield containing Bobby Reid, Harrison Reid and Tom Cairney just doesn't really provide enough protection for the defence? Because we've gone from a lineup against Cardiff, which contained Arter and Harrison Reid, to two arguably defensive-minded players, to a midfield that contains just one defensive-minded player and two more attacking players.
Yeah, it's quite a weird one, considering you look at Cardiff and West Brom and think they're similar opposition in terms of level, you know, in terms of two teams that should be fighting for promotion. Granted, we were away at one, we were at home at one. But it was just a bit weird on Parker's behalf to, you know, go from two defensive midfielders to two attacking midfielders, particularly against West Brom, who are a team who are probably a bit less direct than Cardiff. So, you know, you'd expect us to have a bit more defensive cover. But like I said, it worked okay in the first half. It was just in the second, you know, players just tired a bit and the gaps started to show.
Yeah, what do you think, Morgs? Were you surprised not to see Steph Joe in the starting lineup and Bobby Reid playing? Because Bobby Reid, for me, he didn't really play much in midfield. It almost seemed like we were playing, I don't know, four up front at times.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I mean, first off, I thought Harrison Reid was exceptional yesterday. I thought he had an absolutely brilliant game. and he really sort of came into his own in that Arthur role, which I think, had it been K-Mac, I think we would have been overrun, because I think he offered a bit more pace as well. But when your two other sort of central midfield partners are much more attacking, you're going to be left exposed. And I think Bobby Reid tried to sort of play that traditional centre midfield role. I don't think he quite had it. I think, the first few minutes, I think he was really getting used to where he was on the pitch. He came into a little bit as the half went on, but mainly in a more attacking sense. A few passes were going sort of all over the place and whatnot, but he was doing okay. I think one of the sort of issues were that if you have only the one holding midfielder, but then two attacking midfielders along with those two very attacking wingers who aren't going to do much defensively, you really do leave yourself exposed. But I guess the way that Fulham play is very possession-minded. So Parker's mentality may have been, well, we're going to have most of the ball, so let's have 5 defensively minded players, 5 attacking minded players, and see how it goes. And had it not been for the fact that we weren't creating huge amounts of clear-cut chances, but I think the idea was, let's get a few on the board, and unfortunately that didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, we did look like we were in the ascendancy for most of that first half, certainly, and we did not look like we were under any threat. So the fact that we did have those extra attacking players in midfield didn't really cost us. Going on to your point about Harrison Reed, he played a fantastic through ball for a defensive midfielder. Defence splitting pass through to Kearney. Kearney's through on goal, and he probably should have opened the scoring, but he hit the crossbar. If that falls to Cavallero or knockout, surely that's 1-0, isn't it, Statto?
With that chance, it fell to Kearney on his left foot, and given how good his left foot is, you would have expected him to score. To be honest, Knockout, yeah, you'd expect Knockout to score. You'd expect Micho to score. Cavallero, yeah. I don't know. Did Johnson get a touch on that? Well, I'm not sure if he did or not, but
it looked like he did, but it was given as a goal kick. Kearney was exasperated, wasn't he? He was right in the referee's face. So surely that's a corner.
It was unfortunate, but really, as soon as I saw Kearney through and go, it's like, yeah, he's scoring. It's on his left foot, and yeah, it was just a bad miss from him, I think.
Yeah, and he's put his foot through it. I thought it was going to be straight in the back of the net, but unfortunately, it hit the crossbar and bounced away. But yeah, that should have been 1-0. Speaking of Sam Johnston, the West Brom goalkeeper, he's kind of put his ghost to bed a little bit, or laid his ghost to rest, because last time he was at the Cottage, he let that goal in from Floyd Ayite after his awful mishap with that free kick. But he did well to keep out a Bobby Reid header. After that, Charlie Austin probably should have scored when we left him unmarked in the 6-yard box, and he opted to go for a flying volley and put it over the bar when he was unmarked. I felt at times we looked frustrated in the first half, and restricted to playing some unsuccessful long balls, which I kind of think goes against the philosophy that Scott Parker's been trying to implement recently. The kind of patient philosophy, pass it across, sideways passing, try and wait for those gaps to appear. Do you think the side need to be more disciplined and patient to bring in Parker's philosophy, or would you like to see more variety, i.e. those cross-field passes, trying to pick out the wingers? What do you think, Morgs?
I think we need to have a bit more variety in our play. I think this whole possession style of football is great. It really does have a time and a place, but I do think that we need to mix it up a little bit. When you are playing that kind of style of football, teams will be able to deal with it. And if, as the season draws on, as it goes on, I think if we carry on playing with purely possession, short passing, the teams are just going to park the bus, and it will frustrate us. And as they frustrate us, they're counter-attacking, as we saw from West Brom yesterday, will get slightly more intense. And I think if we're able to sort of start putting longer balls in as well, then I think teams will start to get a little bit more wary about our play and go, hang on a minute, they're not just a one-trick pony. So I think it is good to see, these different types of passes coming in. You could see them sort of every now and then when there was needed, a long ball was played. And I think that was kind of a bit of a breath of fresh air. I love to see us play proper football, as it were. But I also do understand the necessity for not, especially in the Championship, not playing just that one type.
You're right. Yeah, we don't want to be labelled as a one-trick pony, and that kind of happened under Slavisa, didn't it, at times? But if we can vary it up a little bit and bring more players into the game, which we'll come on to in a few minutes, then that can only be beneficial. So the first half ended 0-0, but right after half-time, Knockout scored an absolutely fantastic goal. I think he can be quite selfish at times, and often I feel like he takes too many touches of the ball, but this finish was Dempsey-esque, wasn't it? Statto, talk us through the Fulham goal.
When he scored the goal in the team chat, I said like he meant that, and then later on, when he did an interview, he said he actually meant for a crosser. But hey, it was a great goal. And it was very much Dempsey-esque. I looked at it and it's like, it was just a mirror image of what Dempsey did. I thought, the build-up to the goal was very good. You could see, at that point in the game, we were kind of growing in confidence. We were kind of peppering their goal at the start of that second half, and a goal was coming, and we didn't expect it to come like that, but it did, and we'll take it. And yeah, really from that point, I was kind of hoping we kind of try and get a second one, but we didn't really, did we? We kind of just sat back a lot of the time after that first goal.
Yeah, a second goal would have been awesome. I just want to pull this back, though, and just talk about the selfishness that I kind of alluded to when I was talking about Knockaert a moment ago. I feel that both Knockaert and Cavallero can both be quite selfish at times. A lot of our attacks are coming through both of those on the wings, and the pair of them like to cut back in, and often they do shoot. Yet we've got the best striker in the league in the middle, who often looks isolated. I feel like it can be quite detrimental, our style of play at the moment, and it completely passes Mitro by at times, especially when those two are on the ball. I feel like we should be building our whole style around Mitrovic. Yeah, what do you think, Statto? Do you think that Mitro needs to impose himself more on the game, or do you think that our style at the moment is just not set up particularly to suit him?
It's a very good question. I think other than the season when we went up, he's had a bit of a tough time, because when we were in the Premier League, it was just hoofing it up to him, and he was isolated. And now we've got a system where we do pass it around, but then he's got two wide men who are very good wide men, probably the best wide men in the division, who do kind of like to be a bit selfish and don't release it when they should be releasing it, getting more crosses in. I mean, with all the fancy build-up play we have, I can't recall us ever putting that many crosses into the box at all. And when you have a player like Mitrovic, a big player who can win the headers and get those tap-ins, I feel we kind of need that a bit more. And it is a bit frustrating when Knockaert and Cavallero just kind of do the classic cut in and then take a shot.
Yeah, I agree. I think, we've got two quality wingers. The problem is, I think they've been signed as creative outlets, but as players, they are naturally quite selfish. And they're still excellent players, but I think they have a lot to learn in order to sort of work within our system. We need to get the ball more to Mitro. That is clear. I mean, he looked so isolated yesterday, and the more if we get the ball to him in good goal scoring positions, he will score. There is no worry about that. It's not like sort of if we had AK, Abubakar playing up front, and you get the ball to him in good position, there's a 1 in 10 chance he might hit the net. But in this case, we are missing, the best opportunity to get, goals in the games by not playing to Mitro's strengths. So I think, this week we have a full week of training. There's no internationals. There's no midweek games. I think Parker and his coaching staff are going to have to start drumming into to Knockaert and Cavallero that whilst, yes, their ability to create chances for themselves, as well as they need to start sort of putting chances for other players. And we've seen them both score incredible goals, and that's brilliant. But it's not just about them. And I think Knockaert is more guilty of that than Cavallero. I think Cavallero's, he's doing his best to create opportunities for other people. His passing is improved as well. I think Knockaert, there's a few times we've seen him yesterday where his passes are a little bit lazy. They're not, or even his shooting was a way off a couple of times. But I think if we get them to start playing to our strengths as well as theirs, I think we'll see two incredibly dangerous players.
I'd agree. And just comparing it to our promotion season, Micho was kind of playing with Cess and mainly Piazon or Aite a lot of the time. And they were kind of very unselfish players, particularly Cess. Obviously, Cess scored a bunch of goals for us, pick out Micho, and as would Aite and Piazon. And, you can argue that Cavallero and Knockaert are the better players in this division than the ones just mentioned. But, that doesn't eliminate the selfishness that they have and the lack of chances that creates for Mitrovic.
I was going to say, obviously, having seen Bobby Reid play where he was yesterday, they clearly sort of see him as a player that is there to distribute to other players. Then maybe, this is why he was signed, I think, was to play within that front three. But obviously, when you've got Cavallero and Knockaert playing, pretty well, aside from these issues, I think, seeing him play in one of those two wing positions would be a different game, really.
Do you think a change in formation might help? Because I wonder if a 4-4-2 with Knockaert and Cavallero playing as out-and-out wingers with Bobby Reid and Mitro up front might bring us more luck. What do you think?
Well, I think it's too early in the season to imagine that Parker be looking to change formation. I think you're right. I think that could be an interesting way of doing it. I think Mitro could actually benefit from having a strike partner who would play slightly more off him. But I think we're going to be seeing this formation for quite a while now, and I think it's just really up to Parker and the coaching team to make sure that Cavallero and Knockaert know what they're there for. Don't stifle their creativity, but say, look, when you're on the ball, look for Mitro, look for those other players. Don't just think you have to do it all yourself, because you're not in a team with 9 other players that you're having to carry. You're in a really good team. These players technically should be some of the best in the league. So trust them, give them the ball, and we'll get the points.
I think also with a 4-4-2, I don't think, because we'd then be looking at Kearney in one of the two midfield spaces, and I don't think Kearney works well in a 4-4-2. We almost played it yesterday. To be honest, in the match, it was kind of Reid as the sole midfielder, Kearney kind of advancing, and then Bobby Reid playing off Mitro almost. So it's almost like a 4-1-4-1. So, if we do go 4-4-2, that could pose the question of, do we maybe bench Kearney for a bit? If we go for Knockaert, Cavallero on the wings, Reid, Mitro up top, do we play, I don't know, Reid and Artem in midfield? Would that work quite well at the expense of Kearney?
Personally, I don't know what the answer is.
I can't see Kearney being dropped at all.
No, he hasn't done anything.
Not at this point. I think Harrison Reid played himself into the first team yesterday. So it's going to be. It's an interesting conundrum now, because we've got some really good players, but ultimately Knockaert and Cavallero are those creative outlets. But I think they could be in danger of losing their place, not permanently, but I think they could lose their place if they don't start. Hitting Mitro, being slightly more team players, despite the goals they have scored.
It's almost like the same problem that the England team had almost 15 years ago, when you've got so many good players in the same squad, and how do you fit them all in? Or do you fit them all in? Or does somebody just have to miss out, and you have to pick the best combination of players? And that's the answer, but it's just finding what that combination of players is. I think the best combination of players. So I don't think we're quite there yet, because I don't feel like Bobby Reid's best position is central midfield.
No, I wouldn't be starting Bobby Reid next game. I think he looked a little bit weaker than the rest of them. We'll have Arta back. I think I'd be playing against Sheffield Wednesday. We'll get onto them, but they are a good team, and I would be having sort of Arta and Reid playing, slightly more defensively, allowing Kearney to do a bit more. But yeah, I think Reid will be sort of back on the bench next time round.
The thing with Bobby Reid is, we've bought him. He predominantly plays as a striker or a winger or an attacking midfielder. So you look at our current, front four of Mitro, Cav, Knockaert, Kearney. Do you play him in front of Mitro? No, of course you don't. It's Mitro. would you play him instead of Kearney? Well, probably not. Kearney's a bit of a legend. He's our club captain, and he bosses it in this division. So then you look at the wings, and Knockout and Cavallero, they're not exactly out of form at the moment. They are scoring goals, but there's probably scope or space there to maybe switch one of them out for Reed at some point.
All right, guys, let's move on. So speaking of Bobby Reed, he came close to a second goal for Fulham when Sam Johnson messed around with it at the back and the ball broke to Bobby Reed. His shot was well saved by Sam Johnson. And then shortly afterwards, the ball ended up in the back of our net. Let's come on to that equaliser. And I've got 2 points to make here. Bettinelli has made yet another mistake, dropping a corner onto the head of Ajayi. For me, he's made too many costly mistakes this season, and it's time for somebody else to have a go. Morgs, what do you think? Bettinelli in, Bettinelli out? How many chances does he get?
I'm firmly in the Bettinelli out camp. I think he's a great servant to the club. I don't think he's improved much in his years. I feel harsh sort of criticizing anyone that much, but I just don't think he's a good goalkeeper. Well, no, sorry, that's wrong. I think he's an average keeper. I think we need someone better, considering what we're trying to do. I think last season when we signed 2 keepers, everyone was a bit shocked, but is he good enough for the Premier League? I don't think he was. Is he good enough for the Championship? I think he is, but for a mid-table side. And I think in the summer we should have gone looking for a new keeper. I'm pretty sure, considering the fact we were signing loan players due to financial fair play, I don't think there was a budget for a new keeper. And I think, Tony Khan probably played a little bit to one of our own sort of lovers, as it were. He's just really, he hasn't done enough since he's played to really sort of merit a starting berth, and he's pretty much got it in the bag this season. But I think Rodak is going to be pushing him. I don't know how they train, sort of like, well, what Parker's picking them on, but I think it is time to give either Rodak a look, or we only have that choice. It's going to be Rodak's going to be the only choice until the January transfer window, and I'm pretty sure we're not going to be looking to buy a new keeper then. So I'd give Rodak a go. From what we hear from Rotherham fans, he's played well for them despite them being relegated. Got them promoted the year before, but I think it's time for a change, and we will see how that goes. I think when Betts came in the Championship, as our unbeaten run started, it was in place for a very disjointed David Button. So anyone was going to look better than that. I just don't rate him that highly, I guess.
It's interesting what you say about Bettinelli being a good Championship goalkeeper for a mid-table side, because the way we're going at the moment, if he keeps throwing goals away, then that's where we're going to be ultimately. Arguably he should have saved the goal against Cardiff. He definitely shouldn't have let that one slip through his fingers yesterday. Statto, quickly come in on this. What do you think? Bettinelli in or Bettinelli out?
Bettinelli kind of got his chance, and it all happened during that whole season with McGath. Started Jesse joining in goal, and he wasn't that great, to be honest. So then Bettinelli got his chance, and he was kind of rotating with Barley there. And, we kind of, we all took a liking to him because, he, like I said, he was one of our own. He was playing well. Since he started playing all those years ago, is that he has the odd good game and he makes the odd great save, but he always does have a little mistake in him like that. And then obviously when Slav was in charge, the year when we got to the playoffs and lost and the year we got to the playoffs and won, I don't think Bet started either of those seasons. We had Lonergan one year and then Button the other. And, maybe that was a warning sign that, Slav doesn't rate this keeper. And Lonergan, they too are also inconsistent. So Betts was kind of the best we had. And then, we signed those 2 keepers when we got to the Premier League. And there's a lot of fan outrage because Betts wasn't starting because he was one of the heroes of Wembley. There's that iconic picture of him like running with that flair. And, all the fans have started over these 2 new goalkeepers. So, it's a bit, I think Slav went the wrong way. Probably Betts should have started those first few games and then, bring in Rico or Fabry after that.
All right, my second point is it's all very well blaming Bettinelli, but we had 13 corners in this game compared to West Brom's 3, and many didn't even make it past the first man. Cavallero and Knockaert really need to up their game here, don't they? It's not good enough that we concede from a corner and don't take advantage of a far superior amount of corners, Morgs.
Yeah, I think we can blame Bettinelli for how the goal was conceded, but reality is we had another 70 plus possession game, and we didn't score more than one goal. Our corners were atrocious. I think the only real decent corner came after Knockaert had scored, and I guess his confidence was high. But around in the first half, it was atrocious. It's like, you're a professional footballer. It's not that hard to beat the first man or, put a decent ball in. When you have that many, I can't remember how many it was, but it was like, 11 shots on goal. It was like 7 corners or something like that. But it's not acceptable of players of this level to put corner after corner in the wrong place or into the first man of defence. So I think, that is definitely something they need to be working on. I mean, we've never been particularly good at corners, but there's no reason why we can't be now. So I think they need to really sort that out, because it is a perfect opportunity. With the way that we play, we're always going to get a lot of corners or attacking set pieces, and we need to be capitalising on them, because right now that's going to let us down big time.
Yeah, and that's my point. I mean, we're going to really blame Bettinelli for the fact that we haven't won this, but we could arguably have been out of sight by the time that West Brom even get that corner if we'd have been more ruthless with our corners. I also felt that with about 20 minutes to go, a sensible substitution would have been to bring Stefan Johansson on for either Knockaert or Cavallero. Instead, Onoma came on for Bobby Reid, making his debut 5 minutes from the end. It just felt like a bit of a negative change, like we were trying to see the game out of this time. What do you think, Statto?
I think the Onoma change was just a bit of a like for like, to be honest. And yeah, it was kind of a bit pointless with 5 minutes left, to be honest. You mentioned just then that, we blame Bettinelli for the draw, but, I equally blame Parker for what happened as well. The fact that we were 1-0 up and, we were in 70 minutes and we still have Bobby Reid, Tom Kearney and Harrison Reed as our midfielders. Harrison Reed, who's done an excellent job and he's getting tired. And you have Stefan Johansson and you have Kevin McDonald on the bench and you don't use them. I mean, surely you don't have to be a football genius to realise that, there's 20 minutes left and West Brom are getting back into the game. Bring on Steph Joe or bring on K-Mac, probably Steph Joe actually, to give some legs in that midfield and, to try and give Harrison Reed some support. And it was just a bit bizarre, to be honest. And then equally, if you are looking for that second goal, bring on Abubakar for either Cavallero or Knockaert and just let him run at the defence. It was just a bit of a weird move from Parker, to be honest, that why he doesn't make any changes. And I've noticed in a few of his matches, he doesn't like making that many changes, or when he does it late on. And I think, is that naivety from Parker?
I mean, I agree with you. I think sort of there was that point towards the end of the game where Abubakar would have been an ideal introduction to it, and I won't say that very often because I don't think as a player he's that good, but I think that was the perfect one for him because he could have come in, added something a little bit different. His style of play is very suited to tiring defenders. He may not be the most talented, but he will cause issues. And the fact that he left it to the 84th minute to bring another player on is just baffling because, yes, we were winning and, you don't want to sort of mix things up too much if we're defending a 1-0 lead. But at the same time, the players were clearly getting tired. And with West Brom's 3 subs that he brought on, I mean, Robson Kanu was causing issues. And it was sort of you need to bring fresh legs on just to be able to deal with, counteract the West Brom subs. So it really didn't make a lot of sense. I don't know if it was a bit of managerial naivety, young manager and all that, but he's been doing this long enough now and been playing long enough to understand that if you don't change the players up, there are going to be some that are tired in there because they run themselves ragged. And I think it will, he needs to learn from that big time. and hopefully he has.
Yeah, that leads on nicely into my next point, actually, because in injury time, I noticed West Brom, they broke and they really looked like they were going for it. The players were really going hell for leather to get over the halfway line and support the attack. Eventually, their attack broke down and we had a chance to break, but we looked really lethargic and didn't really compare in any way, shape or form to the way that West Brom were trying to break forward. I feel like had we bought on Kamara, then that might have shown some intent to still win it. But as it was almost like we were like, okay, well, we've conceded an equaliser here. We'll see the game out and get a point.
Yeah, and after West Brom did score the equaliser, there wasn't really any intent for us to try and go back out in the lead again. And again, you can attribute that to Parker not making changes because, the team out there were probably getting a bit tired and probably a bit fatigued. And yeah, Kamara would have been ideal. I mean, he would have probably given us that last minute chance if we would have burst into the box. Had he finished it or got a shot on target, that is another question. But, at least we would have got that chance, or at least we would have had something. And it's just a bit weird that Parker opted to do nothing and just kind of sit on what we had and believe that the current 11 players that we had out there were the best players at that point in time.
I think it's also a bit strange that he left Knockaert and Cavallero on for that long, knowing that Mitro had been underserviced through the game. And, Kamara, yeah, okay. To be fair, he set up Mitro's goal against whoever it was the other week, Forest. And, there was a really good opportunity to bring Mitro a little bit more into the game by bringing in a player who he'd spoken to on the sideline and said, this is what we need to do. We've got 5 minutes left or however long when he put him on and said, this is what you need to do. Get the ball to him in the penalty area and we will score. But he didn't. So, and that is one of the reasons why I think we've only got 1 point out of this game.
All right, well, let's end on a positive then. We've mentioned him already, Harrison Reed. He was given the man of the match on Sky, I believe. He looked excellent in the Harry Arter role, as you guys have already alluded to, but that really gives Parker a potential selection headache now for the next game, doesn't it, Statto?
Yeah, definitely, particularly that Harry Arter started so well as well in the games that he played. And, you could look, they both did start against Cardiff, and the thing is they didn't quite work as effectively as you'd have liked because they kind of cancelled each other out. They're a bit too defensive, both of them. And we put Reed in the defensive midfield role and we put Arter in the Steph Joe role, which Steph Joe plays better at than Arter. Reed definitely deserves to start the next game based on his performance last week. I wouldn't mind seeing Steph Joe start again, to be honest. I would love to see Reed, Steph Joe and Kearney. I think that could be quite effective. But then, yeah, there's also, you can't really rule out Arter based on how well he's been playing. It's a tough one.
I think it's just, they're clear. Reed and Arter are clearly the better version of Gerrard and Lampard. And, it's, we want them both in the team, but can they play together? Oh,
that's the thing, isn't it? Well, time will tell, I guess. All right, I'm going to ask you this question. I probably know the answer already, but overall, are you satisfied with the point from that game, given that West Brom still remain unbeaten? I'm not satisfied. I felt like we should have won that game comfortably.
Yeah, definitely. We really should have won that game. We now, our records now, we've played 7, we won 3, drawn 2, lost 2. It puts us in 11th place, and that's not really good enough considering the caliber of the squad we have. I don't want to sound like an entitled fan that thinks we should be near the top of the league, but look at that squad and look at that compared to other team squads in that league, and look at the teams above us. We really should be higher than that, and we really should have won against West Brom.
And same as you guys, I'm not satisfied with the point. I think we played some really good football again, and I think we'll continue to play some really good football. But we need to stop making these silly errors. We need to start making more of our possession, and we always said it was going to take time. A team that comes down from the Premier League does not automatically mean they are one of the best 3 in the Championship. And the fact is, we're coming out playing some very positive football, a new style, and I think whilst we are seeing us play it effectively, but it needs to be tweaked a little bit to make sure that we don't come sort of the next few games and miss out on points in the same manner, because as we, missing out on 2 points here, 2 points there, an unlucky loss somewhere, by January, you're out of the promotion race and you're having to rely on making the playoffs. And although I'd like to make it to Wembley next time, this is not the route that we want to go.
If we get to Wembley, you ain't coming. Right, okay.
Yeah, book my holiday. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Let's end on a Scott Parker rating then. Statto, out of 10 for Scott Parker?
I'm going to be quite harsh today. I think I'm going to give him a 3. He should have made changes. He was a bit naive. I think, although we started well, he should have reacted to the changes that West Brom made, or he should have, anticipated changes that West Brom were making. And, I said in the last podcast that, if we don't win this game, there could be a few murmurs of Parker out. And I was looking through comments on Twitter, and there's a few people there starting to say that he's out of his depth. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's, we're a team that has a great squad, but a manager that doesn't know what to do with it. And, I think the next few games, we really do need to start to win. I think if we're not at least in the playoff places by, say, 11, 12 games in, which would be about a quarter of the way through the season, then I think, Parker, he will be under pressure, and I think he'll have a lot to answer for.
Okay. And Morgs, what about you, out of 10?
Well, I feel like I'm being sort of a little bit negative over the whole thing, despite the fact we did actually play well for a lot of the game. But I am going to give him a 4 in this, mainly because his lack of substitutions, I think, really hurt us when we were up against it a little bit towards the end of the game. And I think he had said he is still learning as a manager, and I think we will give him a bit of time. I don't think the Khans want to make any rash judgments, but I think these are the sort of games that he needs to learn from. So I think, he's had plenty of games where you think, yeah, he's done really well. I think playing Harrison Reed there and taking a chance, well, not taking a chance, but, going with him over one of our more established players was a good move. But I think there are a lot of things in there that certainly need improvement.
I think you guys are being really harsh with a 3 and a 4. I'd go 6. And I think if Kearney takes that chance, Knockout scores his goal, that's 2-0. We're a bit more ruthless from corners. We take advantage of that possession, and we could be well out of sight, and it completely changes the game. Potentially we wouldn't need to make the changes that we ended up needing to actually make, that we didn't. So I know it's all ifs, buts, and maybes, and it's such fine margins, but I don't think he was that far away. So I'm going with a 6.
Yeah, it's very kind. I think the thing is, though, like
me, mate, I'm all heart.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, guys, let's put that game to bed then. Let's have a quiz.
Fulham.
All right, it's Danny Boy's quiz. Round 1, home sweet home. We've ranked the 44 clubs in the current top 2 divisions in order based on who has been in their current home for the longest period. All you have to do is tell us the top 10 and you'll have 5 guesses each. If you give me the top answer, you'll receive 10 points, 9 points for the second highest, 8 points for the third, etc., going down to 1 point for the final answer in the top 10. So it's in your interest to aim for the best possible answer as opposed to playing it safe. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, right. So, Statto, I'm going to come to you first. Have a guess.
Burnley at Turf Moor.
Burnley is a great shout. They are second in the list. They've been in their home since 1883, so that's 9 points to you.
Get in there.
Well played.
The name Statto kind of makes it feel it's going to be a bit unfair in this one. Yeah. I'm going to go with Everton at Goodison.
Everton is another good shout. They are 9th, so that's 2 points for you. And they've been at Goodison since 1892.
Oof. Sheffield Wednesday.
Sheffield Wednesday are not on the list of the top 10, I'm afraid, mate. Sorry. Morgs,
I'm going to go Sheffield United.
Sheffield United is a great shout. They are fifth. They've been at Bramall Lane since 1889, and that's 6 points to you. Well played. Statto.
I'm just going to say Fulham.
Fulham are on the list. They are 10th. That we've been at Craven Cottage since 1896, so that's 1 point to you. Well done, mate.
Liverpool.
Yep. Anfield. They've been at Anfield since 1892. So that is 4 points to you. Well done. Of course, Anfield was originally Everton's home as well between 1884 to 1892. Danny's Geek Stats.
Fascinating.
Guess number 4 for you, mate.
Yeah, I'm going to do an outside guess here. Luton.
That is very outside. That's actually okay. There's no points for it, but I will. I'll come on to that in a minute. They're not in the top 10, I'm afraid.
Chelsea.
Chelsea are not in the top 10 either, I'm afraid, mate. Sorry.
That's fine.
Statto, last guess?
Yep. We haven't had number 1 yet, have we?
We haven't had number 1.
So older than Burnley. I'm going to say Norwich.
Norwich. I don't think they are on the list.
Damn
no,
it.
mate. Sorry,
Wow.
They aren't on the list either. Sorry, mate. That's 0 points for your last guess.
Nil point.
Nil point.
I'm obviously now having a massive mind blank about who are actually in the top 2 divisions. But I'm going to go Blackburn Rovers.
Yeah.
Yes, mate. Well done. They are 6th, so that's 5 points for you there. So, well played. Actually, after Statto got the second answer with his first guess, he only actually got another point with Fulham. So, Statto, you ended up with 10 points from that round, and Morgs, you ended up with 10, 12, 17 points.
Oh,
Happy days.
Well played. So I'll just go through the list quickly. So number 1 was Preston North End, who have been at Deepdale since 1878. 2 was Burnley, who have been at Turf Moor since 1883. 3 was Barnsley, who have been at Oakwell since 1887. 4 was Wolves, who have been at Molineux since 1889. 5 was Sheffield United, as you said, Bramall Lane since 1889. 6 was Blackburn, who have been at Ewood Park since 1890. 7 was Liverpool, who have been at Anfield since 1892. 8 was Newcastle, who have been at St James's Park since 1892. 9 was Everton, who have been at Goodison Park since 1892, although they'll be moving soon. And then 10th was us, Fulham, who have been at the Cottage since 1896. Other notable ones that you mentioned, Statto, Luton, they have been at Kenilworth Road since 1905, and Norwich have been at Carrow Road since 1935. All right, round 2 is Focus Fortunes. You're going to get 5 guesses each at this. It's the lineup from the 2006 6-1 victory against last weekend's visitors, West Brom. So, need you to tell me the players that started that game. So, I'm going to come to you first, Morgs, this time. Give me a name.
Papa Bouba Diop.
Papa Bouba Diop did not play in that game, I'm afraid, mate.
He scored. That must be another one.
2005-06. Was it 05-06 or 06-07? I can't remember.
Me neither. Don't know. Let's just say in 2006.
In 2006.
Yeah, just a 6-1 win. Come here.
Brian McBride.
Brian McBride, did play in that game. Well done, mate. Morgs, second guess.
Thomas Radzinski.
Thomas Radzinski, what a legend. He did make an appearance from the beginning of that game. Point to you. Well done, mate. Statto.
I'll say goalkeeper. Anthony Niemi.
Anthony Niemi, well done, mate. That's a point to you.
Yep.
Morgs, third guess.
Oh, God. I will say Mark Pembridge.
Mark Pembridge is not on the list, I'm afraid, mate.
A bit early.
Statto, back to you. Third guess.
Moritz Volz.
Moritz Volz did play it right back. Well done, mate. Another point. Clawing this back slowly but surely.
Carlos Bocanegra.
Bocanegra did play. Well done, mate. Statto.
Had McBride up for Heider Helgeson.
Well done, mate. Yeah,
yes.
Helgeson did play as well. Last guess for you, Morgs.
I will go with Ian Pearce.
Ian Pearce was nowhere near the team that day, I'm afraid, mate. Sorry.
Bad times.
Statto. Yeah, bad times. Statto, last guess for you.
I'll say Bocanegra was in the team, Volz was in the team. Yeah, mate. Who would have been left back? Frank Quedrew?
No, mate, sorry. It was Wayne Bridge who was playing left back that day.
Wow.
But you had a good round that round. You got 4 in that round, and Morgs only got 2, so that puts you on 14 points, Statto, and Morgs is on 19. Let me just read out the full lineup from that 6-1 demolition of West Brom. It was Niemi in goal. The defence was Volz, Bocanegra, Zat Knight, and Wayne Bridge. Then you had Thomas Radzinski, Simon Elliott, Steve Malbronk, and Lewis Boa-Morte in midfield, with Brian McBride and Heider Helgeson up front. And then on the bench, you had Tony Warner, Alan Goma, Nicholas Jensen, Sylvain Legvinsky, and Collins John. So there we go.
Simon Elliott, I mean.
Yeah. Another legend. Okay, so this is the final round. Round 3, guess the player. You know the drill. You get one guess each, and once you guess, then you're frozen out. If you get it from the first guess, then you'll get 8 points. Second guess, you'll get 7 points. Third guess, 6 points, etc., until the the 8th point, where you'll only get 1 point. So get ready to shout your name out. This player, fact number 1, this player is 5'9" tall. Fact number 2, he has played in the top 2 divisions for Fulham. Fact number 3, he's captained his country. Fact number 4, he has made 128 appearances in all competitions. Fact number 5, he scored 6 goals for Fulham.
6 goals, captain.
Fact number 6, he's a current manager at an English club. Fact number 7, he was the first permanent signing of the Shahid Khan era. Fact number 8, and the last one, he holds a record for playing for the most London clubs in the Premier League with 5.
Is it Parker?
Sorry, I didn't hear a name shouted out then.
Statto.
Statto. Go on, Statto.
Is it Parker?
It is Scott Parker. Well done, mate. You get
That's a trick question right there.
You get an extra point. That takes you up to 15. But this week's winner is Morgan with 19 points. Well done, mate. That first round saw you through.
Because the rest of it was crap.
Yeah, it wasn't the best, but you did your work early on. That's fine.
Bloody Luton.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening this week. Morgs, Statto, and I will be back on Thursday morning to preview Saturday's match at Hillsborough, and I'll also be joined by a Fulham Focus legend to talk about a Fulham legend. Until then, check out all our other content over at fulhamfocus.com, and please rate us on your podcast app of choice. It really does help us to grow. In the meantime, those of you in the UK, enjoy this Indian summer, and to one and all, have a fantastic week. Until Thursday then. Cheers.
Fulham.